Following a transformative generation that saw Xbox recover from its rocky start to deliver a successful, consumer-friendly approach, the gaming team at Microsoft is back with two consoles that do everything the Xbox One currently does, but better. Blazing fast load times, superb compatibility, and a ton of power, combined with various quality of life adjustments to improve upon the Xbox One experience in noticeable ways. While an iterative approach, the Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S undeniably provide you with the best way to enjoy your library of Xbox games. Upon unboxing the Xbox Series X, one thing is immediately apparent. Xbox's new flagship console is massive. Resembling more of a PC tower than a traditional video game console, its nearly 12-inch height wouldn't be such a barrier for entertainment configurations if it weren't for its approximately 6-inch depth and width as well. With those dimensions, players with horizontal-oriented slots in their entertainment systems for hardware will likely have issues fitting it within the existing configuration. The less expensive diskless Series S, on the other hand, is the smallest Xbox ever produced. The console weighs just 4.3 pounds versus the 9.8 pounds of the Series X, and it can easily fit anywhere your Xbox One already sits. Both consoles feature an Ethernet port, 3 USB ports, an HDMI port, the power connection, and a storage expansion slot designed for proprietary external SSD expansions. More on that later. To the delight of Xbox One owners who are sick of the massive power brick, both the Series X and Series S eliminate the giant block in favor of a standard power cord. Each version also includes an HDMI 2.1 cable, which allows for high-speed transmission of data between the console and screen, capable of hitting up to 120 frames per second performance. However, you do need a monitor or television with a matching 2.1 port to take advantage of what it has to offer. Despite the power both consoles deliver, the Xbox Series X and Series S are whisper quiet, even when the Series X is playing discs. Not only that, but even after extended playtimes of new-gen software, both systems do a good job of regulating heat thanks to ample ventilation. Perhaps the biggest differentiator of the two consoles from a hardware perspective is in how the Xbox Series X has a physical disk drive, while the Series S does not. Whether or not this is a big deal is strictly based on your individual gaming tendencies, but not having a disk drive obviously means you cannot play disc-based games or disc-based movies. For those who like physical media, the component of the Series S could be a deal breaker. Regardless of whether you choose the Series X or Series S, the new consoles shine when it comes to performance. Thanks to the Xbox Velocity architecture, which includes a custom NVMe solid-state storage drive, both new Xbox models deliver marked improvements over last gen, particularly in how fast games load. This performance upgrade is most impressive in open-world games, with backwards compatible titles loading in a fraction of the time. New-gen games with open worlds like Yakuza Like a Dragon load faster than other games featuring big worlds on last-gen hardware. This is the biggest advantage I noticed over last-gen hardware. After spending weeks with the new consoles, I find it extremely difficult to return to my Xbox One X. Additionally, Xbox Series X and S deliver myriad tweaks to how you experience your games, including multiple latency-lowering features and various ways to optimize the use of the system's memory to provide more detailed textures faster. Players can expect less screen tearing due to the variable refresh rate and more realistic worlds and characters due to hardware-accelerated ray tracing. On top of that, spatial sound and implemented acoustic models provide a better audio experience than any Xbox before it. Unfortunately, both consoles still contain too little storage. The Xbox Series X features a 1TB SSD, while the Series S possesses a paltry 512 GB. The plus side to the Series S's low storage is that games downloaded to the system do not include 4K textures, so the files are inherently smaller. However, with game sizes growing bigger each year and updates ballooning the size of the files, your choice comes down to either keeping just a few AAA games on your SSD or purchasing the pricey proprietary external storage. You can use a third-party external hard drive to store games, but you can only play backwards compatible titles from it, and it won't achieve the same performance or speed of the internal SSD. If you want extra space for the Xbox Series X and S optimized games, you need to pick up the proprietary expansion cards. The current one from Seagate adds an extra terabyte of SSD storage, and operates at the same levels as the internal SSD, but it sets you back $220. The Xbox Series X is an absolute powerhouse, with 12 teraflops of GPU power that works in conjunction with 16 gigabytes of GDDR6 320-bit memory, including 10 gigabytes of GPU-optimized memory that works to prevent bottlenecks. The result is the ability for Xbox Series X titles to reach 4K resolution at up to 120 frames per second. Meanwhile, Xbox Series S has significantly less processing power, with 4 teraflops of GPU power that works with 10 gigabytes of GDDR6 128-bit memory. Thankfully, the Series S can still reach up to 120 frames per second, but its resolution tops out at 1440p. Thanks to this hardware, gameplay is silky smooth with minimal pop-in. Games feel responsive and perform well, offering stable frame rates and crisp visuals. While there may not be a ton of games you can't also buy on Xbox One, my time with both the Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S tell me that the performance of these new systems delivers substantial quality of life improvements that make it easily the best way to experience any Xbox game. Although the dashboard is largely unchanged from the Xbox One generation, the improvements come from how quickly everything loads and how smooth it is to navigate. The speed at which you can bounce between screens and menus is impressive, but the biggest step up from last gen is how you can swap games and pick up where you left off. The new Quick Resume feature allows you to jump between multiple games fast by leaving titles in suspended states. Using this feature, I alternated between completing contracts in Hitman 2 and wandering on the oldest house in Control, then switched over to Overwatch for a few matches before returning right where I left off with Hitman 2, all within a few seconds. Obviously, for titles like Overwatch that time you out of the server for inactivity, you won't be able to suspend their states without being dropped, but being able to jump between games without any load screens or lengthy menus is incredibly convenient. In addition, the Xbox Home and Collection screens have been iterated on many times over the course of the previous generation, and as a result, the interface feels more user-friendly. Not only is the home screen incredibly customizable and reactive to how you play, surfacing the games and apps you most recently used, but you can pin games, groups, and apps to the screen so you can make it as organized, social, or game-focused as you want. In the collection screen, clear categories like Xbox 360 games and optimized for Series X and S help you find games that you own or have access to thanks to Xbox Live Gold or Xbox Game Pass, as well as myriad sorting and filtering options to locate the game or app you want without much hassle. From an accessibility standpoint, Microsoft carries over its progress from Xbox One in this important area. Players can remap the controller, enable co-pilot mode to let 2 people play as one, and take advantage of accessibility options like narrator, magnifier, game transcription, and different contrast settings. Additionally, the widely praised Xbox Adaptive Controller is compatible with the Xbox Series X and S, giving players who need additional accessibility options even more flexibility. Coming off one of the greatest console controllers ever made with the Xbox One, Xbox chose to not reinvent the wheel with its next gamepad. The Xbox Series S and X wireless controller largely keeps the same form factor and functionality as its predecessor, with a couple of refinements. The Xbox Series X and S's controller's most notable addition is the new share button. This button, located in the middle of the controller's face, offers easier capture functionality. Now, you capture a screenshot by quickly pressing the button or record the last chunk of gameplay with a long press of the button. I love being able to quickly capture and share my gameplay screenshots and videos without throwing the brakes on the action or diverting my attention for more than a split second. The new controller also swaps the plus sign D-pad of last gen for a hybrid multi-directional D-pad for increased versatility. I'm pleasantly surprised by how precise the new D-pad feels. Playing side-scrolling games like Sonic Mania or Dead Cells felt as great as ever, and the D-pad has a satisfying click to it. The controller features improved grip on the handles, triggers, and bumpers, plus a 3.5mm headset jack and a USB-C connection port. Unfortunately, the controller still uses AA batteries, which feels downright archaic in 2020. I don't expect a stock controller to have the awesome rechargeable battery of the premium Xbox Elite Wireless Controller Series 2, but it's annoying to keep AA batteries nearby at all times. If you'd prefer to stick with your existing Xbox One controller, you can use that without losing any functionality aside from the share button. While everyone is looking forward to the new games they'll play on these new systems at launch and into the future, many of us have accumulated impressive collections of games we already love. With that in mind, Xbox did an outstanding job of making sure almost anything you enjoy doing on Xbox One can be done on the Xbox Series X and S. It all starts with software compatibility. Sure, all your favorite streaming apps make the leap to this generation, but outside of a handful of Kinect games, every game that runs on Xbox One can run on Xbox Series S and X from day one. That means that in addition to the vast library of Xbox One titles, you can also access the backwards compatible enabled Xbox 360 and original Xbox library. I love turning my Xbox Series X on for the first time, long before any new generation games had arrived, and instantly having access to a large library of Xbox games I already own. Most people don't buy new hardware to play old games, but when the games I already know and love benefit from the better hardware, it's nice to not have to start from scratch. Additionally, if there's an Xbox Series S or X version of a game you don't own on Xbox One, developers can utilize smart delivery to get you the best version of the game on the console you're using at no additional cost. Not only do all of your games and apps make the generational leap, but Xbox took things a step further. Every accessory you own for Xbox One automatically works with Xbox Series X and S. Upgrading to a new console is always expensive, but this level of peripheral compatibility means I don't have to worry about buying a second controller for my Player 2 or a new headset on top of the several $100 investment. Unfortunately, Xbox Series S and X follows in the footsteps of Xbox One in not supporting Bluetooth headsets. I was impressed with how simple moving my library to the new consoles proved to be. I had the option to either re-download them or save my bandwidth by simply plugging in the external hard drive I was using on my Xbox One X. Once connected, the Xbox Series X and S immediately populated my games library with the titles on my external hard drive. The Xbox Series X and S are the most compatible consoles we've likely ever seen. Veering close to PC-like compatibility, Xbox delivers on its platform uniformity goal. Xbox has not only set the standard for compatibility in an industry with a spotty track record, but it has thrown down the gauntlet and brought an extremely consumer-friendly approach. The Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S introduced superb quality of life improvements like quick resume and reduced load times over Xbox One or even Xbox One X. But don't expect a markedly different or revolutionary leap forward when you first power on the system. If you're simply looking for the best place to play your library of past, present, and future Xbox games, look no further than Xbox Series X and S.
If you like this video review, follow us on YouTube and head to GameInformer.com for more great content.